Hey everybody, this is Audi from Modern Retro Radio. If you listen to the station enough over the last couple of years, you know once in a while I rerun a Jerry Lewis roundtable discussion with my good friends Kat and Thad. But something's come up with Kat, and it's really worth talking about. And we're going to do this on video, and so I think this will be kind of fun, and we're going to put it on YouTube. And I just think we need to discuss it because Kat brought something to my attention and Thad's attention yesterday, and it's concerning and laughable at the same time. Would that be a good way to put it?
Yeah. So very unexpected. I woke up Monday morning. I got messages from my friend, who shall not be named, but she's a very big Jerry Lewis contributor and fan, and she sent me messages, but I didn't even really read her messages yet. I got notifications from Instagram from, can I say her name? Well, Chris Lewis's daughter, let's just say.
Who is the daughter of...
So Chris Lewis is the son of Jerry Lewis, for those who don't know. And so the girl is Jerry Lewis's granddaughter, and she sent my friend and myself messages asking for me to take down any related content. She sent me links to my friend's Instagram post, not even my post, and asked me to take down anything that's related in any way. They said that they appreciate us being fans, but we need to take stuff down, basically. And any videos.
Now, she mentioned something that I wasn't, because you sent a screenshot of her very wordy, lengthy, almost, meth psychosis state of a message. But anyway, I'm kidding. But she said she was representing Jerry Lewis and something called, what was it called? Classic Films? Or something called Classic Films.
Let me read it for you. It says, thank you for your enthusiastic appreciation of Jerry Lewis, which we share with you. However, the following URLs are in violation of the copyrights we own. And we respectfully request these posts be removed as soon as possible to avoid...
Now let's stop there. Let's stop there because she said of the copyrights that we own.
Yeah.
Who is we? Because she is the son, she's the daughter of Jerry Lewis's disinherited son. And a lot of the footage she's talking about is like TV footage from the 50s, and a lot of that's public domain. And according to Thad, you're protected to put it on YouTube because of the Fair Use Act anyway. So what does she mean by we?
I'm not sure. She didn't really state who, and I know for a fact that, like, Danielle, Jerry Lewis's daughter, and Sam have that copyright. I mean, have that the rights to the whole thing. Now, Chris does.
Oh, including the films.
Yes, the films. But I don't even think they were really like stuff that they sent URLs to, links to, were photos from the 1950s from magazines. like what are you like? I'm pretty sure like it's probably in public domain now. Like a lot of those magazines don't even exist.
So the URLs were from magazines.
Some of them. Now, some of them were from documentaries where the footage, so Bonjour, Monsieur Lewis, and his A&E documentary, I forget
the last American 1996 A&E.
Yeah, the Last American Clown documentary. So those were excerpts from those, and they were just like 10 seconds of footage, maybe, or GIFs, which are moving, they're computer generated images that are the footage, but it's like very short, like 2-second clips of things. Nothing that is like, you're not showing the whole show. And, you know, some of those documentaries have been on YouTube for years.
What are you going to say, Thad?
I was going to ask if they wanted you to pull the TV stuff that we had restored from like the 80s or 70s as well, or was it specifically more of his interview stuff?
I really don't know because they were really vague. So it says,
Well, she had a whole bunch of links.
Yeah, it says, let's please remove the stuff as soon as possible to avoid us having to pursue legal options. We understand the following URLs are not from your account. They were my friends. But if you have posted or shared any of the same, they qualify as post in violation of copyright. Thank you. So she contacted me on Tumblr, Instagram was the first one, and then my private Facebook, which I don't know. She said it was very, this might seem creepy, but it was very easy to find you. And, you know, I was like, okay.
I just feel that, I'm calling bullshit here, because if she really were working with some entity called Classic Films or whatever the heck she claimed it was, wouldn't they do it? Or I don't know. It just seems like she's taking a lot of ownership, and we're not sure if she's the legal owner of any of the stuff you're talking about.
Yeah, and later, as you said, that one, I don't think it was that one. She did say the one place that they were representing, and that researchers were flagging certain accounts, but then she also said in another message that me and my friend were specifically known to have been sharing Jerry Lewis content across multiple platforms, basically.
As thousands of others have.
Yeah, so she said you contribute the most, which is, you know, how do they know that? Is my question, because it's
and yet they send you links that aren't even yours. Go ahead, Thad.
Yeah.
So in reality, it almost does it kind of appear like they want everything to be removed. Thank you for being a fan, but
yeah, it's very vague, and that's why I am really concerned about what do I take down. Like, even if I wanted to take stuff down, like,
I mean, it's not like it's the day the clown cried.
Yeah, which we
that movie is practically on YouTube anyway.
Yes, and I've seen like for those of you who don't know, I had the edits. I edited like lots of footage together, 30 minutes worth, and it went viral back in 2016. And since then, like, it was taken down, not by the Lewis family, but by the German documentary makers where the footage was from, and those who found the footage, supposedly. I don't quite believe that they found it. I rather think it was given to them. But lots of people on YouTube have since tried to put it up. There was one I saw recently that like directly copied my order or some of the things that I had, like the intro and outro. So like they always put my idea for the intro and outro in there, but it's whatever. But like when people directly steal the exact edit that I made, that makes me a little annoyed, for sure, because it's not theirs. You know, I put a lot of time and effort into editing and doing the
okay, well, here's the thing. All right, it sounds like they had, you know, fair right to pull that from your YouTube channel, but YouTube is not going to pull something if they don't hear from someone who can prove that they are, in fact, the copyright owner. So it's
And,
almost like Morgan Lewis wants you to voluntarily make their life easy. They, I don't know, they could be working with, some, low rent, TV good time memories, fly by night business, and going to put out some cheap DVD that you can find at Walmart for $2.99, sometime down the road, using footage that you already have. But it's like, well, if this footage is on YouTube, why are they going to buy our piece of crap DVD?
it sounds like they're trying to, like they specifically in another message mentioned his home movies, which I have never posted on YouTube. Um, I do own those. I do have like excerpts
Home
from.
movies of what? Home movies of what?
So Jerry Lewis, he directed Little.
His parody films.
Yes, those his home movie
Yeah,
parody.
like
Okay, all those like Comeback Little Shiksa
Yes.
and all that.
Fairfax Avenue and Comeback Little Shiksa are the ones
Okay.
that I
I
have.
thought Danny and Sam owned all that. I thought Danny and Sam owned all that.
Yeah, and they do, and I have been respectful, and I didn't post those online for all to see, but I have excerpts from it, and there were also excerpts in the Bonjour Monsieur Lewis documentary. That was an excerpt in there too. So it's been public.
so it's
in the 80s.
it's basically stuff that's already been released previously on TV or in regard. Those excerpts.
Yeah, and it's not the full thing, and I understand their concern about that, but none of that's been posted online for anybody to see. So I'm not sure why pictures of stuff from the home movies, like there's magazine photos from the 50s of Janet Leigh, Tony Curtis, Dean Martin, and others participating in Jerry Lewis's films. And, it's films, so photos from various magazines were posted by my friend, by myself, but they didn't cite any of my posts, so I'm not sure if I should take those down or what, but why
Do
are
we know
you
for a fact? Do we know for a fact that Chris Lewis and his daughter aren't working with Sam and Danny under the table?
So that is quite possible. I mean, but they still, because I know Chris was given free reign of like the archives. That's why he's touring. He went to Germany recently, and he did some, promotion for that.
But
and
he's doing that because he was permitted to by
yeah.
the owners. Okay.
Yeah, so sort of like when he did the restoration for the Jazz Singer, which is Jerry Lewis's TV movie, basically.
By the way,
I think they're going to restore the home movies to put on DVD eventually, but none of what we had,
Right.
I mean, it's documentary footage. You can't stop those documentaries from existing. And the people who made the Last American Clown documentary posted that documentary themselves on YouTube. They wanted it up there. So,
And I don't think Jerry Lewis would want anybody to sell that. He said in his autobiography, he said he was embarrassed by how amateurish that they were. I mean, they were fun to do at the time. They even had little premieres at his house and all. But I think he would scoff at the idea of someone trying to make a buck on that. I really do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think they're really fun, but you can definitely see that they're not.
Right.
Sometimes when I look at my dance choreography from when I was like first starting, I'm like, cringe. But so I understand where he's coming from. Like, I think it should just be something that they release.
And what about the estates of Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh and Dean Martin? What about those estates? Dean Martin, they're other famous people in these movies.
That's true. So I wonder if they have contacted them for permission at all. But like, it sounds like they didn't really have, when they contacted me and my friend, to my knowledge, that's just the two of us right now, but it might have been more. But it sounds like they don't have like the money to have a lawyer contact us, because usually like people just, I mean, a member of the family isn't going to contact the person.
Get a lawyer to send a cease and desist. However, yes, they definitely acknowledge your passion for Jerry. So it sounded like she tried to be nice about it. I just think she was a bit loquacious and verbose and a little creepy in her just pontificating on, the project, and she just, but she, to me, she's speaking out of line because she's not the rightful owner. And by the way, if they care so much about all that, where the hell were they in the late 90s and early 2000s when Jerry Lewis's official website was just completely neglected? In fact, you can go to the chat form and it was just nothing but links to porn sites. And this was his official site.
Oh my
And it was like that for a long time. Where were they then?
Wow.
You know what I've always wondered is so we know that Jerry passed away, he donated his whole library, his whole archives to Library of Congress. But in the recent 10, 20 years, we've only gotten 10 movie releases. They're bare bones, but there's a plethora, or
what have they released? What have they released, Pat?
They've released basically the same movies from the legendary Jerry collection. They just re-released it, but it was basically the same thing that they released 10 years ago, but just with a new cover on it. And
so
there's
the same director's commentary and all that.
Yeah, Aaron Boy, Ladies Man, same movies, but it's like, I mean, it doesn't seem like with an estate so big, why is there only the same stuff? And I mean, I think you could make. I mean, his TV work is. I know his TV work came on. I think Tubi, and there was what was it? I think Amazon just released a few of his specials, but you can barely find them on disc or anywhere hardly. It seems like none of his TV stuff is even put out there.
Well, I noticed that he's got some movies on Hulu. Some of his movies are on Hulu now. So I wonder who made that happen.
And also Pluto TV has been showing a lot.
So who do you think brokered that arrangement?
Well, like I do know that it's hard for them financially to release the DVDs, but I would assume that you could at least add more special features, at least. Because
God,
I like the Ladies Man, remember?
Well, we know that.
Go ahead.
So the Ladies Man, they had like extended scenes that they, I forget where it was. It might have been, oh geez. It was for Jerry's 90th birthday celebration in New York. And they had like festivals, and they showed the Ladies Man extended cut and like deleted scenes and like kind of different things that we had never seen before. They could have like put that in the new DVD for that movie.
I always wondered why.
Yeah, that's.
I've been very disappointed when it comes to the bonus material and all of the releases, even when he was still alive. As you all know, I am on record, and I don't think that Jerry Lewis discussion forum that is, what's it called, Jerry Lewis fans, that's not existing anymore, is it?
No.
Jose's thing, that's gone now, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm on record as saying, as good of a friend as Steve Lawrence was to Jerry, why did they have him do the director's commentary with Jerry? It should have been Bill Richmond.
Yes.
The guy was there. You're being oddly silent, Thad.
I was just gonna say, I think was it Bill Richmond was alive until what the?
Oh, he was alive well after. Yeah, he was alive when it was going on.
I think he passed in 2016. I think that's when it happened. Let's look. I'm pretty sure, but it was very close to the time Jerry did.
Yeah.
Because I'm talking about extra material and stuff, like out of all of the ones that have been released, the Nutty Professor has been the one that has the most bonus features. And if
Yeah.
you go back and look at some of the interviews in the 50s and 60s that Jerry did, he would show the press rooms, and we know he saved everything he shot. I think I heard somewhere it was written in his contract that if he went on TV, he would get a copy of the tape. I mean, that's why he probably owns all of his Tonight Show appearances and guest hostings. But as for his film stuff, I mean, he shot tons of stuff, and I mean, there's endless amounts of stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know why the bonus features hasn't been more than what it is.
Well,
Also, I think wasn't I talking with you, Audie, about we were talking about where I'd heard somewhere that when Criterion was putting out "It's a Mad World,"
yeah.
which Jerry did a
Oh,
cameo
yes.
on it, he had a show on his failed ABC series from 1963. He did a show where he had the entire cast on, and I did hear on a forum somewhere that they had approached the estate for that episode, and I heard Chris Lewis turned it down, but I could be wrong. But I did hear something on a forum about that. I didn't know if any of you heard any more info on it.
Yes. Always Chris.
So that was accurate. So they did approach the estate, and then they said no, because I bet you Criterion would have loved to put that on the because they had, I think, 2 discs, and they had a ton of bonus features, and that would have been probably great for the Jerry Lewis show from 1963. We've only had 1 episode with Muhammad Ali or Cassius Clay.
And then,
released.
so it's well, yes, we're officially released. I released the opening, the first show, on YouTube, so that one exists, and then
the ending one with Sammy Davis
the
Jr.
finale,
exists too.
and then the one that they officially released on DVD, which is where he announces the show is over. So
I missed the one with Sammy Davis. I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Yeah, it's on my channel. I'll send you the link.
Well, you know what? To play it safe, why don't you just keep a couple of them up and see if they get pulled? I don't think they will, because again, YouTube has to hear from someone who can furnish documents that they are the rightful copyright owner, and I just don't think Morgan Lewis. And by the way, so I'm confused. Is Chris? We're not talking about Anthony Lewis. We're talking about Chris Lewis, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Now, Anthony Lewis, he was the one that did the thing for Inside Edition when they talked about him being left out of the will, right? That was Anthony, right?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure I got it right. So, how would I know which one is Chris? I'm drawing a blank. Has he? I think he was on some 70s telethons helping Jerry, but that's my only recollection of him, right?
So Chris was in the final years supposedly his favorite son. Don't know why. Was
he the one son that came to the funeral? He was the one that was the only one that was allowed to go to the funeral?
Him and Scott, I believe, were the ones who were allowed at the memorial. I don't think there was a funeral per se. There was just the memorial service, and I think Jerry was cremated. I don't think there was like a.
I think Jerry was dead long before it was announced. That's just my opinion. I think Jerry had passed days before the public knew it. I really, really, really do. It's sort of like when Paul McCartney's wife died. She was gone a good 2 or 3 days before it was announced, just to give them the family, because you can imagine what that would be like. Because we went a really, really, really long time without getting a status on Jerry's health. That last month that he got sick again. And I said, you know what? I said, I have a feeling the next time we hear something, it won't be good news. I just knew it because it was just too long. And then I just today. But that's just my opinion. I don't know that for a fact. So, all right, we kind of veered, but so okay, so we're talking about which one was Chris. Okay. And I also go on record as saying, I don't care if it was Jerry's wishes or not, to not allow your flesh and blood to come to a guy's funeral is just unconscionable to me.
Well, I mean, he had his reasons definitely for I'm not sure if They just stayed away. I think some of them just stayed away. I don't think it was.
Gary didn't even go, right? Gary didn't even go, right?
And then it could have been also Sam's wishes. I'm not sure what was going on there with the funeral per se, or the memorial per se, but I do know he did have his reasons for, you know,
So it
not
wasn't.
leaving them in the will, and also the fact that he just did, he didn't have the money. He was heavily in debt, and 50 million net worth does not mean that is in the bank. I'll say it again for anybody who wants to hear it. Like, I know a lot of people on YouTube in my comment section are saying he had $50 million, he had $75 million. I'm like, that is net worth. Lots of people have a lot of net worth, but they're broke. I mean, when he went,
You think that's why? You think that's why they sold the house? You think that's why they sold the house?
yeah. Well,
His
needed.
estate went on auction too, right? They
Yeah.
had an estate sale in, what was it? Was it June?
You mean this
I
year?
remember. No, it was after he died, but I remember jumping on there and stuff just flew off of that. Like I mean, stuff was just going like that, and I think it was probably going from people that had the money, they were going to buy it and then resell it. That was my thought. I don't
Yeah,
think
some of them did.
Yeah, I think
Well, I
maybe not
remember.
a lot of
It was either in 2018, the start of 2018, and I know there was like more than one auction that they had for sure. They had two bigger. They had the big auction. They had a medium size auction, and then they had some just items that they were selling off. Even like as late as last year, I think it was.
Well, someone who going to go nameless, but it's someone from the old forum that we were talking about earlier. Uh, he would send me private messages saying, "Hey, Jerry, he's not as financially solvent as you might think. He lives high on the hog and yada yada." But I always thought just the Eddie Murphy Nut Professor franchise alone had Jerry set for life because that was hugely successful, and Jerry Lewis was the executive producer of those, which meant that he would get the lion's share of the money.
But also, you have to remember that he always lived beyond his means. He always spent big. Also,
He did in the '60s. He did in the '60s and '70s. But I mean, I defy you to find footage of Jerry the last 20 years of his life where he wore a different suit other than his standard, red shirt with the black jacket or the yellow shirt and the gray blazer. Now I do know that he would get like several of one color and all that, but it just seemed like he had the same two suits the last 20 years of his life.
Yeah, I would agree on that. Now we don't know the reasons why, if that was a personal choice or he couldn't. I mean, those suits are pretty expensive, I would say. But he went bankrupt in the '80s. He had to do. I'm sure he didn't do those French films that were pretty. One of them I enjoy to some degree, but one of them is just.
I tried. You sent me two of them, and I tried to watch them, and it was like there are 3 or 4 Jerry Lewis movies that make me fall asleep. The French movies and Artists and Models. I know a lot of people can't believe I don't like Artists and Models, but I don't get it. But anyway, but those French movies, oh my lord, yeah, he said he did it for the money.
Yeah,
and it's obvious.
Arizona
What
Dream.
about?
Yeah.
Has any of you seen a slapstick of another kind?
I saw it on cable in the early '80s. Yeah.
I mean, I tried to make it through that. I think I just skipped to his scenes, and I was horrified for all time. No.
The only part of that movie that made me laugh was when Jerry's in the waiting room with the other guy expecting a father, and the guy was talking about how ugly he is, and he says, "I think I need to have myself circumcised." And Jerry said, "You mean castrated?" Right?
Yeah. Yeah, the beginning was promising, and then it just went way down from there.
Well, it was a Kurt Vonnegut novel, and he was very popular, but I don't know how much of that movie deviate from his book.
I think it's a lot, actually. I don't know. I never read
I have not a clue.
But
No,
I don't think anybody was really happy with anything that happened in that movie.
no, from that era, Cracking Up and The King of Comedy are two solid movies, and I love them. And you know, and Cracking Up has gotten better with time for me.
Mhm.
I especially like on a Saturday morning, I can just put it on and like, my God, it's almost Mel Brooks level stuff. A lot of that.
Mhm. Yes, for
But
sure.
I wonder, I wonder if too bad that Morgan and Chris don't own the French movies. They would make about $1 off of those.
Um,
But the thing is,
oh,
is why not many releases? Why?
Right?
It's baffling.
Who's minding the store? Seriously,
Yeah,
who's
yes.
minding the
Well,
store?
actually, those Who's Minding the Store and a couple of the films have never been released by the estate. I think all of Films released one, and a few other random companies. It's like some of the movies
It's
have
never
been
been
swept under
remastered
the
either.
rug.
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah, some
Minding
of the
the
movies have been
Store?
swept right under the rug.
Who's Minding the Store was the Frank Tashlin one. That was why it was released by Olive, I think, Olive Films. So all those ones I don't think were owned by Jerry to be released. So like the Sad Sack, for instance, that's not his directed.
Yeah, that was.
Oh, really?
Oh, definitely not.
I think Hal Wallace produced that.
Well, Sad Sack is not one of my favorites. I mean, I like the song, but
It has some good moments, I would say, but
well, how he could recite those serial numbers was very comedically impressive in that movie. So I dug that one. But maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if y'all heard me earlier, but correct me if I'm wrong, but whenever I do see Who's Minding the Store, it looks like it's never gotten the restoration treatment that some of the other movies have gotten.
have you watched it on the DVD?
See, I think I have, and I just remember it looking a little grainy. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, the new, excuse me for a moment, but I think the new, I need to plug in my computer, but the DVD on mine, I think it looks pretty good. So, I mean,
Go plug in. Sad, you want to sing Sad Sack while she's doing that?
I
Everybody
sort of
calls
remember
me
it, but
Sad Sack. I hear it all day long. When I try to do the right thing, it always comes out wrong. Everybody calls me Sad Sack, Sad Sack, including Cat. Okay.
but getting back, so okay, even if they don't own like the Sad Sack and all those, what about his television work? I mean, he did a massive amount of television work, and I'm well, they probably wouldn't own the copyrights on them, but I mean, he's done numerous different stuff in television and nothing specials. I mean, his 1963 show, even though it failed, most people want to watch it because it was the most expensive television show in history at that time, and only 13 episodes were produced. That's nowhere to be seen. But you can go. You can go to any of the television museum in LA and New York, and they have the episodes there. You can actually go and watch them. I actually saw pieces of the Mad World one and a couple other ones because they had all of them.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, you were a kid in a candy store when you were sending me messages and you were just loving it.
Yeah, I went there, but I only had about 2 hours, so I caught a Tonight Show episode that he was on, and then I started to watch a couple of the ones from '63, but ran out of time.
Well, maybe this is the beginning of them taking ownership. Maybe this is step A, and then maybe someone finally getting things together. And so they're starting by.
I mean, that would be nice. I would pick up a decent set in a heartbeat with some great material.
So what are you going to do, Kat?
I'm going to like keep some unlisted. I'm not going to take anything down, of course.
But with most guys, I know a lot of guys who have YouTube channels who, they put up a lot of Elvis stuff, a lot of James Brown stuff, Prince, name it. And what they usually do is a lot of these guys have like 2, 3, 4, 5 YouTube channels. So once they get a certain number of copyright strikes, they just create another channel so they can keep the channel from being deleted. But you haven't even received a copyright strike, right?
No, and that's why I have 2 different channels. So that's why that's why I created my second channel in the first place. But like, if it's a copyright strike from YouTube, okay. But like, they haven't asked me specifically for what videos they wanted taken down. So I'm not going to take them down.
So all those links that that she had copied and put in that message, none of them were actually your channel, right?
Well, they were just Instagram posts, but they said take down any videos across any platform that you have. And they contacted me. I mean, I don't think they could contact me on YouTube, and that's why they didn't send me anything there. But
so they want you to take down everything.
That's what it sounded like. They were mean.
Can we Google the name of that company that she said that she claims to have been partnering with?
Also,
do you have your phone? Anybody? Let me see if I can find it.
Yeah. So it says, like, remove certain videos across your Instagram, Tumblr, and any associated Facebook fan pages, and do so willingly. And, videos, they said just social media sites. So, I mean, YouTube is a social media site. I'm not sure if they have connected me yet with this YouTube channel, so I'm not sure. I mean,
so these messages were basically her warning you that we won't reach out to YouTube. We're giving you a chance to take all this down first.
Yeah, but
she's basically going to say, so she's going to contact YouTube and say, hey, I'm the disinherited granddaughter of Jerry Lewis, and I don't own this footage, but I want this taken down.
I guess. I don't know.
And pardon my insensitive way of putting it, but those are the facts.
Yes. But they don't own everything, even if they like there's stuff obviously that belongs to the family or whoever holds the copyright. So Danielle, his daughter, Sam, his wife. But everything I posted doesn't quite. They were from archives of other places. Stuff that was privately sold to me from other people's private archives that they let me have, stuff from television that was recorded in the 80s and 90s, like just appearances on random things. They don't own that stuff.
And they're not gonna, that's not sellable stuff. For instance, he did the Merv Griffith show. They can't sell that. The Merv Griffith estate handles all that.
Yeah. And like stuff with the Tonight Show, stuff with, and of course just photos. A lot of those photos you don't own, and like some of the photos that I post, I have the negatives of, and those people gave me the rights to those negatives once they sold them to me. And, we don't know that. I don't know what exactly they're wanting me to take down, but, it was a whole variation of things that they said that my friends apparently shouldn't have posted, and they were saying that I shouldn't have posted, and so I'm wondering what exactly they want to take down from mine. They're like, oh, you share stuff on your platforms and it needs to be taken down.
And I was going to say, well, maybe you would hear there would be future correspondence from Miss Lewis, but you said she's blocked you now, right?
No, I blocked her, and my friends also wrote her a message saying, I don't know what you're wanting her to do, but like during a pandemic, it's a little extreme. First of all,
In fact, you made a good point. It is impossible to completely scrub a legend like Jerry Lewis off the internet. It's just not going to happen. You have to have, like Madonna and Prince were notorious. I think Bob Dylan too. They were notorious for keeping a lot of their content off of YouTube, but they had the money, the financial resources to have a whole team, monitor that. Or a lot of the current TV networks, but I guess we'll see. I don't know. I think I don't want to say call their bluff, but I guess I am saying that, maybe keep a few of them up and see, I can see why the clown footage was yanked because, YouTube heard from the rightful owner of that footage.
Yeah, and my friend even posted that, like a little small clip of it, and that wasn't one of the posts that were offensive to them. So I know they definitely don't own the rights to the day the clown cried or that footage, that was there. Otherwise, they would have, listed that. So I don't think they have anything, any legal obligations on that.
Do we still know if the clown footage actually has the audio? Because I did contact the Library of Congress and they said they just have video, but there's no audio at all. But I'm wondering if the Prince in Germany has the audio tracks with it.
Well, and so my friend translated some of the interviews and from the documentary, and they said that the audio was in poor shape, very poor shape.
So it exists.
Let's hear it anyway.
I think I think it exists, but it was really, really bad. It was really poor quality audio.
So it's there, just in very dire shape, which sometimes they can piece that together. It just depends if somebody wants to do the restoration on it. But I wonder how the Library of Congress didn't receive that.
Right, if they supposedly got everything.
Yeah, I mean, even I read an interview where they said, well, even if it releases in 2024, we're going to be doing restoration work on it. But the video is in poor shape, but you could easily do some digital enhancing on it. But it's like, where's the audio? Like, somebody said that with the boxes that was saved, there was canisters of audio reels with them, or possibly with them. I don't know. Something just doesn't add up there. I know that they would film those separately, but
I think Chris Lewis said that the audio at the Library of Congress was just poor also. I think that's what he had said in his interview.
Yeah.
Well, that's interesting because I emailed them directly and said, does the audio exist? And they said, no, we just have the video. We have 75 minutes of behind the scenes, and we have about around 90 minutes or 70 to 90 minutes for a feature film. But they claim to have no audio for either, just no sound.
Wow. Maybe someone will leave a comment, in the comment section and point in the right direction or something.
Well, I know James Daybauer, he was the person who, along with Ted Okuda, authored a book on Jerry Lewis's films. He said on Facebook that, it's not the full movie that exists there. He has friends who also commented on his post, said it doesn't exist in full form.
Yeah. Well, before we wrap it up, y'all, I want people to check out the second Jerry Lewis Roundtable that the three of us did from my radio station, Martin Retro Radio, where Kat goes into the whole thing about her thing with Harry Shearer. Speaking of that movie, because
man, well, what's funny is I've had long discussions over the internet with people saying that movie was never completed, but Chris Lewis when he went to Berlin, a couple of months ago before the pandemic, he actually said that Jerry shot and completed the film. He just left it in the rough cut form. But he dumped millions of dollars into it, sold his yacht and I think one of their houses to actually finish the film. And people have always claimed, no, he never finished shooting. I was like,
No,
he did finish shooting.
In Jerry Lewis's autobiography, he expressly, he said, "I'm holding on to the last scenes," which would imply that it's done.
He kept the last 3 days, and then when he went on the Tonight Show, he specifically said,
"Right,
I finished shooting," and then also on the Dick Cavett Show, he said, "I finished shooting, I'm editing it now." And so he stated that, and people still are like, "Well, he never finished it." He did. He just wasn't able to do post-production and probably reshoots. He might have wanted to go back and do reshoots, which sometimes directors do, is they shoot the film and then they decide that they don't like something, they go back and reshoot or tweak it, which he was not able to do because he only got as far as editing.
And also the Swedish film company and whoever else owned the copyright, I think it was Joan O'Brien, who took reels from Jerry until he could pay for, his production.
You bring up an interesting point.
They were preventing him from ever releasing it because they didn't want it released. And even if he had it by some magic, put it together, they weren't going to allow him. They were going to sue him the moment that it was released if he, was able to put it together. But they took his reels, so it wasn't going to happen.
I bet you if that's true, if they took his reels, they hated the film so badly, they probably destroyed it. But there is a couple interviews, if you dig deep enough, a couple of French directors, I forgot their names because they're so long, but they claim to have a 75-minute print of the film and intact. It seems like even with the audio. And it's like, well, where are these bootleg films coming from? If this does exist, where are they coming from? And it seems like they're in private archives. So the film could be there with the audio intact just in somebody's basement or home, but they don't want to release it because of retaliation. I'm hoping.
You know what? We need to find an interview. We need to find an interview with the guy who directed the 70s telethons that Harry Shearer claimed to have been shown the film by. It was one of the guys who was the director.
Was that Joshua White, or was it somebody named White?
I was thinking Arthur.
I remember reading it. I remember reading about it in Mad
But we need to find interviews with that guy and just watch interviews with him and just see if he made any little slips indicating where his copy is and how he got
it. The funny thing is would that be in the 70s or the 80s?
Harry Shearer said that he saw it, I believe, in 1979.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, it claims to watch it with his girlfriend at the time.
They were at the guy who was directing the telethon at that time. They were at his house, and he showed it to him. And apparently, it wasn't it was stock music used over it. So I guess that probably helped contribute to why they found it comical, like it was Laura song or something. I don't know. But
if public really wants to know if Harry Shearer sees it, go watch that discussion because he claimed to not remember anything, any interviews that he was in with Kat, as I don't remember filming that. And then she showed him that. And then also, as soon as it came out, he said, "Oh, he didn't want to portray it as a bad movie. He was trying to do a drama, but for 20 years, he said he was trying to do a horrible pathos, and he just changed his tune as soon as any legitimate footage popped up, which doesn't lead any credibility to his story at all. It just makes him look like a big buffoon for saying all this stuff for 20 some years."
And the footage.
And I never believed Harry Shearer saw it.
Yeah, the footage that the documentary that the footage appeared in, he was a part of. He was interviewed for Der Clown, which was the German documentary.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And the Day the Clown Cried footage appeared in and was, restored for And he was like, I didn't participate in that interview. I was like, why does it say on IMDb that you're there? Why do I have you on? I showed him a screenshot of the documentary and his interview, and he was like, I don't remember every interview that I've been a part of. Like,
I have a screenshot where the Variety article, he comments on, he says, I just want to clarify up one misconception. I never said that the movie was bad. He was trying to do, and you can find it right on Variety.
He
right
said it on Howard Stern that it was bad. I mean, there is no question that he thought the movie was bad.
If you look up Daily Clown Cried on YouTube, you will find somebody's posted the whole thing with Harry Shearer, and they have a ball making fun of it, like a 50 minutes of it, actually.
Wow.
And then Harry even says, now, are you being serious or are you just putting this all on? He says, no, I actually saw it. And Howard is like, no, this isn't some scam, but.
Well, we will have to, this is an ongoing thing, and who knows, 2024 will be here before you know it, if COVID ID doesn't take us all out, and I think we'll all be okay. So, all right.
Can we go back to Chris Lewis just for the round it out at the end?
Absolutely. And I hope I didn't say anything that, because I know some of the people watching this are going to go, wow, that Audie's a real dick. But, I'm not. I just like to keep it real, because I just don't think you deserve that. It's almost, I don't know, it just almost seemed like she had a lot of time on her hands and just sent you this completely unnecessary, baseless threat in the guise of a respectful warning,
Well, if anything, I feel like, as I said, I feel like the estate hasn't released a lot of stuff. So mostly the fans for the last 20, 30 years have kept his legacy alive because, that's where you find stuff on YouTube or whatever because the fans love the material and put it out there because there is no material out there. It's hardly available.
And you know what? And if Jerry's adopted daughter and his widow don't really want to invest that much energy into, they can do what Elvis Presley's daughter did. She hired, a major media marketing company to be totally responsible for, and look all the great stuff that's come out on Elvis. It's incredible. Mm-hmm. They could just get someone like that to take care of all that. Say, here's all the footage, assemble it, and of course get a consultant who knows Jerry's work so everything makes sense. But you're right, they're doing nothing.
Yeah. I mean,
there's tons of stuff.
Yeah.
I do think I was told recently that it takes them a lot of money to even release stuff, and especially the films, and that's why they had to go under the Paramount banner to release some of the stuff in the first place when Jerry, released it in the early 2000s, because he didn't really have the money to release it on his own. So maybe that could be part of the reason why some of the.
It always seemed like it was just the Paramount stuff that would be released. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's why some of the behind-the-scenes footage isn't that great. Maybe it's stuff that was still at Paramount, and that's why they included it there. And because they were doing the releasing of the DVD, maybe Jerry didn't have anything to do with those specifically.
Well, they need to start with getting an official Jerry Lewis website. That needs to be job one. And they need to document everything, and they need to present a comprehensive chronology of everything by category. They've got the time.
Oh, anybody remember? I just thought of this the other day, but anybody remember the phony phone calls that came out on disc? And I have the little paper on it, and it said that he used to do lots of these phone calls. I'm sure there's tons of that, tons of audio stuff even.
I used to see that at his old website, the old official website, where it was and it was for sale, and I never even heard of it, and I've never heard it. I never knew anyone who owned it, But
the phony phone calls?
Yeah, I used to see it at the old official Jerry Lewis website, the one that was neglected for a long time.
I have the album of it.
Yeah,
CD.
me too.
I have a CD album of it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was released in the Nutty Professor
I'll-
50th
I'll have
anniversary.
to somehow get you in the loop on that.
Alrighty, sir. Alrighty, sir.
Mr. Byers the third.
Yes.
And Chris,
I'm gonna form my own army.
and like just a little bit more background because I feel like we didn't finish the background on Chris.
Yeah.
Like he in the 90s was, charged with stealing artwork. So, he got in trouble at least once for sticky fingers.
Artwork from where? Artwork from where?
It was like just, I think it was just artwork from sellers. I don't think he paid them or something. I think he has like a history of lifting things, and from Jerry Lewis's own, because some of the stuff on eBay that I've seen has come from Jerry Lewis's office, and like they mentioned in the listing that they got it from his son Chris. Why is he selling these things? So it's very like some of it was like very, very rare items like records and other memorabilia that shouldn't be out there. I would say I don't know if Jerry Lewis would want that released, and that was when he was still alive.
Well, then that just makes me question those messages you got, because maybe this is a case of the apple not falling far from the tree.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why she apparently she knew she was being creepy because she said, "I hope this doesn't come off as being creepy, but you're just extremely findable with minimal effort." So I'm going to I think one message would have sufficed.
Right.
I think I would have gotten the message, but I don't need to be contacted across multiple social media sites.
And why didn't she include specific links from your freaking channel?
Yeah, I don't know what she expects me to do. Like I haven't shared my friend's post at all. Like I don't know what she wants me to do.
Oh, did we Google the company that she claimed to be working with? Let's do that before we go. Can somebody do that?
Let's see.
I'm on a phone, or I would, but it'll pause if I go out and Google it.
Well,
the same TV collection company that brought you the best of Mannix presents. No, I'm being honest.
It says comedy classics.
Okay, that could be anything.
Comedy classics.
That could be anything. It sounds made up.
I don't know. It says.
And then she didn't even.
It says Jerry Lewis comedy classics too, and another part of it. So I don't know.
All right. We'll Google that. Google Jerry Lewis Jerry Lewis comedy classics.
In the meantime, have you heard about the book that's coming out supposedly this month? It's a tell-all book written by Rick Lertzman and this other guy, William Barr, I think.
Rick, wait. Rick, who? What was the name you just said?
Rick Lertzman, and he has the Life and Times of Hollywood Facebook site.
How do you spell his last name?
Lertzman.
Oh,
and,
man.
Me and him have got into some discussion.
I had a long discussion with him one time. He claimed that Clown never happened. It was a phony, never got finished. And I was like, you can look it up on Wikipedia. And I had this big back and forth, and I gave all my sources. And he literally was like, yeah, if your source is just Wikipedia. I said, my source isn't just Wikipedia. It's multiple interviews, multiple sources. And he basically thought that the whole thing was a fairy tale, never even got filmed, basically.
Okay, that tells me what to expect from that piece of crap book that's about to come out.
And exactly. And my argument with him was after he started with a lot of non-facts, outright lies on his Facebook site, I called him out on it, and he's just rude to anybody who disagrees with him on Facebook, on his.
Do you know who is? Who
He-
lives in the same house as him? Harry Shearer.
Wow. Say no more.
I'm sorry.
But so he.
Wow.
I said something about Patty Lewis's book, which was written in the late '80s, and he said, "Oh, these books only exist in your mind." And I was like, took a picture of the book in my hand. I'm like, "What's this?" And he's like,
Okay.
"Oh, Patty Lewis didn't write that herself. It was ghostwritten." Still, it's a book that exists. Stop.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to say this as a long time. I've been a Jerry Lewis fan since I was 5 years old, and that was a long time ago. And even though I can be very critical of Jerry, I take it all, the good and the bad. It smells like that book that's about to come out is going to be a bunch of hyperbolic conjecture crap. I can see this already. I would read it, just because of whatever might be true. I'm not going to buy it, but just based on what you guys just told me, and I hope the critics rip them a new one.
I
William
can go back
Burns.
and send screenshots of the
Wow.
nice argument that I had.
You better
Discussion.
save
I
it.
call it a discussion.
Something tells me you're going to be needing this, and you guys may be very critical to. I don't know. I see this. This could be a thing. I mean, give me a break.
Me and Kat like to debunk all the liars out.
Indeed.
You two are the best.
Just one more thing. So he also was perpetuating this myth that's been going on about a long time, but about different entertainers. It's mostly about Danny Thomas, the comedian and actor, entertainer. Mostly it's been rumors about him, but
Wow.
I don't think it's true for anybody, but it's just a rumor. And he was trying to pass it off that Jerry used to sit under a table and have hookers or defecate on him, or he would defecate on hookers. Some nonsense. And I was like, that's a rumor about Danny Thomas. Stop. That's not Jerry. Get off.
Now Jerry, he definitely frolicked with a whore or two, but in fact, one was on the Jenny Jones show in the early '90s, and I don't know. Did you ever see that one? It was all these women who've been with famous men, and I know she was telling the truth because she was saying things that only Jerry would say. She said
that Liz Renee woman?
She was an older woman in the '90s. I don't remember her name.
It might have been her.
But she said the very last time that they were together, she said Jerry just was feeling really guilty, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to become the perfect man. I'm going to become." Who else would Jerry Lewis would say that? And so Jenny Jones asked. She said, "Well, did anything happen?" And she said, "Well, I just did a little dance, and Jerry put a little towel in front of him, and you can take it from there." But
that's her. That's her for sure.
But I want to get to how the three of us know each other. I am so glad that the old website Jerry Lewis Fans existed, because we wouldn't know each other if it weren't for that. I don't think, especially for as long as we know each other. And if any of those guys are listening, I think that site would be around today, but the people who were running it killed it, because one thing that you should embrace at a discussion forum is discussion. And it got to the point where I was afraid to just say my opinion on anything, which is so ironic because Jerry Lewis was the most outspoken pontificator in the history of man. So anytime something would happen, they would say, "Well, guys, don't jump to any conclusions, or don't, That's like, well, can we just express ourselves? It was a very small group of us. We were all.
I remember. I remember when there was a new member that came on, and he had the Ben Casey episode and a bunch of stuff that I'd never seen. Yeah, and I was really excited. I was like, man, I've never seen this stuff, and it was really sad because the whole group turned
He got
most
ran out
about
of there.
99%.
They
Ran
ran him
out,
out
and
of
I
there.
was like, why? There was some great stuff there. I mean,
And
it
there's
was
a
just
guy from Canada. There was a guy from Canada who had a YouTube channel, and I personally asked him to join the group because he had a Jerry Lewis tribute show that he would do at, like retirement centers and stuff. And he's still doing it today. He's now working with the Dean Martin guy, and they have like a very successful show. I invited him to become a member there, and he's saying, "Hey guys, I do my Jerry Lewis tribute show," and it's these same brown noses at the Jerry Lewis fan site going, "Well, do you have a right to use that decal? Do you have a right to use that?" And he sent me a message saying they seem awfully protective of Jerry, and I was embarrassed because he was there because I invited him to join because I thought that they would freaking appreciate him, because his show he did a great Jerry Lewis.
And part of that was because some of Jerry Lewis's sons were on the site commenting, or like friends of the family
And see, and
commenting,
that's
and
what's going to
you
get you in
can't play
trouble.
this.
It's
You
just
can't play
like when
this.
you become. It's the same thing as becoming friends with a politician. You compromise yourself. You compromise your convictions. And go ahead, man.
Oh, I didn't want to cut you off. I was just going to say that, but between the three of us, we are probably the biggest fans, and we always like to talk about Jerry Lewis and share stuff,
Right.
and because we want other people to know about it and to appreciate his work. And it's really sad to see either members of the estate or other fans that just tear into everybody and tear everything apart. And it's like, why? There's no reason. There's no need to. We just want to be able to see more of his work and appreciate more of his work and get excited. I'll talk to people today and they don't even know they don't know who Jerry Lewis is. They don't even know who Groucho Marx is or Charlie Chaplin or anybody. They have no idea. It's because most of the estates are in it for just money, and that's it. The legacy's gone, and people nowadays have no idea who these are. And they're not going to go to some museum. They're not going to go to some museum in LA or New York because they may not live there. They don't have the money. And so fans keep the spirit alive and keep that person's body of work alive.
Yeah. And it actually, in learning about all of Jerry's drama, when the Susan Lewis thing happened, I lost a lot of respect for him, but I still admire the work. I still admire his whole thing, but he made some terrible decisions, and I think it's terrible that okay, Susan Lewis, she's probably a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but it's not her fault that she was born into that situation. She should not be homeless on the street, but I can still separate. Go ahead.
Like her sons, like I don't know what the situation is, but like her sons seem pretty decently off, financial wise. Like what happened there that they're not supporting
She's
their mother?
probably mentally ill, and she's probably has some untreated or undiagnosed mental problems.
And she seems to want to stay like on the streets. And like a lot of people I know, Gary, I don't know if he just abandoned her, like he, say what you want about like Jerry, but like his sons didn't do anything to help her either. And Gary went like, oh, this is my sister for a little bit. Then he like, peaced out and was like, bye.
I think she's something tells me she's a handful to deal with. That would be my guess. And I'm pretty sure it's just like when you said that Frank Sinatra was probably bipolar. I totally get that, but he was probably not ever diagnosed. But his behavior, so that's what I mean. She hasn't been diagnosed, and not diagnosed, she can't get treated. And so that's what I think is going on there. But she still deserves, some sort of checking account, with some money, the money that she should have gotten growing up without a father.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the money. I mean, he had his reasons. The sons all did questionable and wrong things that I can see why they were not.
Now, which one was the one that died back in the 90s or whenever?
Was that Joseph?
2010.
Yeah. What was the deal with? I heard that he just really had problems. but I don't really know
Well,
what.
he was like, well, first of all, I'm not, without saying what really happened, I don't want to get sued by a certain person that's already, you know, talking to me. But, you know, certain, Joseph had reasons for, you know, why he was.
Well, I know he had
Was.
he was an addict. I mean, that's
Yeah,
documented.
and he turned to drugs to alleviate the pain from those memories of what happened during his childhood, you know, etc. But I think he blamed his dad probably from not being there as much to prevent certain things from happening to him. So that's probably why he was blaming his dad. But, you know, I think they did have moments where Jerry was loving to Joseph. Because even in the National Enquirer, when Joseph went to, you know, out his father for all these things, you know, the picture that they used was Jerry hugging Joseph and, you know, playing with him, tickling him, you know, like as a kid. And it's like, my dad never hugged me. There's a picture of it right there. And there's always videos, like even as late as 1979 on the set of Hardly Working, where he's hugging his son. He's kissing his sons on the lips. He's hugging Joseph, you know, he's greeting his sons for his birthday and stuff, you know. And so I think some of it was, you know, definitely exaggerated, saying that they were whipped twice on the bottom in their whole life. Like, you know, I definitely have been, like, you know, disciplined by my parents, whipped on the butt more than twice. I know.
I had to discipline Thad when he came up to visit me last summer. He was so unruly. I was like, dude, I said, don't make me take my belt off again.
Some people get it. Some people get it every day.
I somehow don't remember that, but
interesting. Some people get like it every day as kids. Like my father, like my dad, he got whipped with a switch from a tree when he was
that's
little.
old school.
You know, and like
Jerry Lewis admitted that he physically disciplined one of his sons because he got a bad grade on the regard.
Didn't he say that on the Joan Rivers?
I think it was the Joan Rivers thing.
1968.
And Jerry claimed to have never met her. And Jerry said he never met her.
And she claimed to never have met.
When did he say that?
He said that. I think it was around the time that they were promoting the anniversary of the King of Comedy. He was doing the circuit, and I think that was around that time. It was like
because I know he made the joke about Joan Rivers, but he did appear on her talk show in the '68, and it actually I think he
telephone in 1967. Really? She appeared on his telethon, and you know both of them made up stuff about not like ever meeting before, and like even Joan Rivers said that I didn't meet him, and then she said he sent me this letter randomly, you know, threatening me. I never even met him.
Sounds like a Harry Shearer incident.
You know, usually when you hear stories about people not being able to recall the 60s, it's usually a different context, but this is something else. So I don't know.
But going back to like Joseph, he was threatening, like he disappeared for a while after the National Enquirer incident. And I think Patty and Jerry were trying to find him, and you know, that was like I definitely saw that in some clippings and some articles in newspapers.
Is Patty still in the nursing home? Is she still alive? So she's like almost 100 now, right? Or over 100, right?
There's some debate about her date of birth, her year of birth, but she would be around 98, 99.
She was about 10 years older than Jerry, less than.
Well, they was always stated that she was 6 years older at least, but you know she didn't really know what year she was born in. So.
Oh really?
So it's about 4 to 6 years difference, for sure.
Interesting. Wow, Kat, that is so interesting.
But yeah, Joseph. was threatening his father at shows once he reappeared. And I'm not sure if Jerry had a restraining order against him at one point, but he had to protect himself. Like Joseph
Is this
was
the
not
one? Is
well.
this the situation where Jerry when he had started performing again? He was concerned about his son showing up at the shows.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure, but I think he brought a gun. I think I saw an article where Joseph was like in the audience, or he came backstage also, and then he had like a gun, and he was not well. And Jerry did blame himself. He wrote articles later, like he was interviewed for articles later on, and he expressed his guilt over Joseph's death and passing. He felt,
Really, I've never seen that. I would like to see that. Can you send me that?
yeah, I'll show it to you.
Okay.
It's one from like it was like 2014.
Yeah, you should send that to me too. I don't think I've ever seen that.
Okay, I'll try to find it.
That family definitely could have benefited from some intense family counseling, big time.
Definitely. And like all of the sons, I would say Ronnie, the one who was supposedly adopted. I have other theories about that.
Okay.
I mean, like several
people, Ronnie's the one that's in Which Way to the Front is one of the soldiers that he was putting the medals on. Okay.
My theory on that, some people don't agree, but like my friend Kayla, she definitely told me about this in the first place, and I was like, oh, I can see like a resemblance between him and Jerry. And like I started mentioning it to other people. Someone actually mentioned it to me without even me telling me, like me saying anything about it. And I was like, how many people see a resemblance between Jerry's supposedly adopted son and Jerry? Because Sammy Davis Jr. and not Judy Garland, Loretta Young.
Oh, I have a theory.
Like
maybe Jerry.
They adopted their own children. Their blood children.
How about this? Jerry may be the biological father, but Patty may not be biological mother.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, she wouldn't have been. Well, definitely, if she was I mean, there would be no reason to hide.
No, if he had a baby outside the marriage in the cricket, there you go.
Yeah.
Allegedly. So is that where you were driving? Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
His mother would have to be blonde hair.
All right. Sorry, you were just saying that. Okay. I'm a little slow. Okay.
You gonna do the Peter Falk accent?
I'm trying to describe you. I just got one more question here. Okay, he looks just like him. All
right. He went. Yeah, the mother would definitely have to be a blonde lady, and he had a thing for the blondes. I mean, Susan's mother was blonde. Susan Lewis's mother was blonde. And if you look at whenever I try to like tell people about this, like I'm like, look at Dean Martin Jr. He didn't look anything like Dean. He looked exactly like his mother. He had blonde hair. He looked exactly like his mother, and I really don't see a very tiny resemblance to Dean.
I'm always going. In fact, I have right here. Let me see. I'm not gonna see. I have this.
Yeah.
And Dino appears in some sketches, and it's like great to see, but they look nothing alike. But the chemistry between them is undeniable. I mean, dad and son, even in TV,
So like, I think if Loretta Young and Sammy Davis Jr. can adopt their own kids, I'm not sure he supposedly. They don't really know who the parent is on one of his Sammy Davis's children, but like
Hollywood moguls had a tremendous amount of power back then. Hollywood moguls had a whole lot of power. If it meant protecting their interests, their financial interests, they would have had it documented. That Jerry Lewis was Dean Martin's son. if they needed to do it. So,
Oh, I've seen that some people on YouTube were like, Gary Lewis is Dean Martin's son. He looks more like Dean. Like, no, where are you getting this? Like,
no.
although he changed looks, he used to look like Jerry, then he kind of looked more like Patty later on. It's
Did
weird
you see
though
his
that
TV special? He did a whole TV special in the mid '60s, and he is doing all his father's shtick. You can tell he did his homework. He watches that. I mean, you know how Jerry would just, do a double take and make eyes at a woman and and do all that. He would, and all total Jerry, and plus he looked just. I mean, even the cleft chin.
Yeah.
So
it's just weird that like none of his sons except Anthony and then Joseph when he was very young, like in his 20s, then he as Joseph gained weight, I think he started not to look like Jerry at all. He kind of changed.
Their mother had very strong Italian features, and I think they were the dominant genes.
Yeah, it could be. But like none of it, like Scott doesn't look like him. Chris doesn't. Some of them kind of look more like Danny Lewis, Jerry's father, I would say. But it's a shame that none of the grandchildren or the sons really look like him. Susan Lewis is female Jerry.
Oh, without a doubt.
100%.
Is that Rick Sapphire still around? He tried to put her on entertainment circuit.
Then he dumped her. He's another person who kind of just abandoned her.
Well, he was an opportunist schmuck anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna whatever. All right. Hey y'all, can we do some more of these?
Yes.
Well, absolutely.
I think this needs to happen more.
One last thing with the book coming out. Apparently, did you know that Jerry Lewis was bisexual? That's what I don't know. I mean, okay, maybe like when he was like I don't think he ever acted on it. I think he was attracted to men, but I don't think he ever acted on it.
No, I think he was a very secure. Well, actually, he was a very insecure man, but I think in his sexuality, he was very secure because for him to be so in touch with his feminine side and his comedy, I just think he just was very secure. And I mean, let's face it, the man slept with everybody in terms of women. I mean, he just did.
I think he loved and admired men, and maybe like some like he thought men were beautiful in some way, or attractive. I mean, he even said Dean was very handsome. He admitted like men were handsome, but like I think he was attracted to them in that way, but he would never act on it.
Because I'm a big Elvis fan, and I have buddies who are staunchly hetero, and they go on and about Elvis's looks, and they're unabashed at how they do it. The story of country music entertainer Jerry Reed. He talks about the day that he met Elvis. He said, "Man, I wish I was a girl." Of course he was joking, but just Elvis was so striking. I actually don't think that's true about Jerry because I can clock pretty good, and I don't get that. We would know something, and
they're saying I don't know what's gonna come out in this book. Probably lies, but they said that they have stuff to back it up.
According to Paul Anka, Sammy was, because Paul Anka's book, he spilled out all the tea. And so we know about Sammy Davis being bi and all the threesomes and all that stuff,
Yeah, for sure. And then Peter Lawford was bi.
Peter Lawford?
Mm-hmm. There's rumors about Sammy and Peter getting together and being a little bit more than friends. But they thought that Peter Lawford was gay back in the MGM days when he was a star there, and they tried to get him married. They were kind of his mother actually thought he was gay or something. I think that was.
I think I did hear that story or something. Yeah, his mother was.
He's just English. Thank you. Anyway.
But yeah, like, I don't know. This Rick Lertzman once told me he doesn't need sources. He's a writer. So that tells me he's writing some
Yeah,
fiction.
and you know what? And then they need to put his book where it belongs, in the fiction category.
Yeah, that just tells me. And then he came out, like, when he's promoting his book, I got all these interviews. So now he has interviews suddenly. I thought he was a
I
writer.
may need to. I may need to interview him on my station, Modern Retro Radio, and just have it out with him, because I can't stand people who are full of crap. Because a true journalist, they're going to cite their sources, and they're going to give attribution. They're going to, they're going to back up what they're claiming. Even Albert Goldman, who wrote scathing books on John Lennon, Lenny Bruce, and Elvis, fans, hated Albert Goldman, but everything in his books were substantiated. So I don't mind a
Mhm.
tell-all. In fact, I love tell-alls, but don't lie.
Yeah. And you would think that Chris Lewis would be on this tell-all book and, like,
Yeah,
stuff
where's
all over.
Gary's book? I'm waiting on Gary's book.
Yeah.
I'm waiting on I want Gary's book, because his story on its own is because he had like a big drug problem for a while in the
Yes.
70s.
And also he went to, well, I don't know if he went to jail. Like, he was Jerry told a couple of times that he had to pay $500,000 throughout the years to bail Gary out from various different activities that he did. I do know that there was an incident mentioned in Patty's book for sure, where Gary and his friends were accused by this woman of assault, basically. And supposedly Frank Sinatra and friends helped him, out with that whole thing. So I'm assuming probably Frank and friends helped him with the other situations. I'm not gonna list those incidents, but I do
But
know
he was, if I'm not mistaken, I think Gary's drug of choice was heroin, and I do know that heroin and opiates, they will make a person do things they never, ever, ever imagined doing before. I'm actually all in. I think all drugs should be decriminalized. However, I will tell anybody, please don't touch any pharmaceuticals or opiates or heroin, because you will just you have to have it every day and
Yeah.
several times every day. I'm not saying that's true, but
Mhm.
usually you need the mob to make uh, not legal problems go away, but if, like, for instance, when Wayne Newton used the mob when he was getting those threatening phone calls, and then
Really?
when they started threatening his daughter on those phone calls, Wayne Newton said, "Okay, that's when I went to the mob, and then after I did that, the calls stopped." So when it's a
They take their
nefarious
interest.
source, so I'm wondering if this Frank Sinatra thing was to weed out a shady, or like maybe someone was framing him.
Yeah.
I,
I mean, that's entirely possible that Gary wasn't. I don't see him as like a person who would assault
I
somebody
don't
at all.
I don't get that instinct at all.
But
Not one bit.
several him and several other kids have been known to lift things from and sell things online, or just to other people from Jerry and Patty's
You're
possessions.
talking about Chris, right?
Chris, well, I didn't
Didn't
mention
you?
Chris, but Joseph, during his drug years, he was stealing from his parents, and I think Gary did a little bit of that as
If
well.
he was doing heroin,
Kat,
that probably happened.
didn't you say that you
Otherwise,
found like rare original negatives on eBay that you bought or that you saw on eBay? Original like family negatives. You were saying
yes.
that they had there was stuff that just couldn't come anywhere else but from family. They were very personal stuff.
Okay, well, I did have records that definitely came via Chris, through somebody else. He had sold some very rare records, and I believe they're the only ones that existed. Two of the songs that I had posted on YouTube. They're very.
What about those
songs. But family albums? Is that what you're?
Yes, family albums. Yeah, they were like huge, like 40s, 50s, and 60s, I think.
Anthony Lewis's ex-wife was selling, and I think she's kind of stopped now, but she was selling family albums from Patty Lewis's collection of stuff, and just selling other memorabilia, like awards from Jerry from Paramount. So Jerry's from Paramount, and like just silverware.
I remember seeing a bunch of those on eBay.
Priceless family albums. I did purchase 2 of them because I felt like they needed to be saved. Because I think some of them she might have thrown away. There's a lot of stuff that has been thrown away that might have been priceless items for sure, that I've heard about. Like when Patty Lewis left her home, a lot of the stuff was just thrown in the trash.
It sounds like they kept it for a long time, and then it's like,
but who throws away family photos? That's really odd. Like I would never throw away like anything that was like really old. So it's
it's not unheard of. In fact, I've worked in elderly facilities, and I remember going out to the trash time, and they had moved this person out, and I saw their diplomas, their entire thing in the trash. Family photos from 100 years were just thrown away. So it's not unheard of. But it is sad.
I do know, and it makes me very upset to see some of that. Like I don't know what goes through people's heads that they just want to.
I mean,
ignore the past.
It almost bothers me because, like, I mean, I'm kind of thinking of myself as a preservationist archivist, but like the film studios, they threw away their stuff in the sea. They destroyed film stock. They threw away musical stuff. I mean, it's normal to just get rid of stuff. Well, don't need it, toss it, and they're giving the museum or something just to throw it away.
I mean, I don't know if y'all know this or not, but I am hoping that one day in fact, I need to look at eBay, but I actually got a personal autograph from Jerry Lewis in 1988. I don't know if I ever told y'all this.
I don't think you did.
When I was a young guy, someone from my church knew how much I loved Jerry Lewis. And without telling me, they contacted his Sherman Oaks office, or they contacted him somehow. All I know is that one day I'm in my dorm room and I get a call from the campus mail, and they're saying you have mail in the office. And I open up this large manila envelope, and it's that black and white photo. It's like a montage of Jerry Lewis pictures. It's him from the 80s with a telethon, and then there's like the old painting of him in a clown face, but there's enough white space for him, and he wrote my name too.
Aww.
And they said, with all good wishes, Jerry Lewis. And I had a whole bunch of stuff in storage in the year 2000 that all just got lost. And that was with it. So I'm hoping.
Was that when you lost your VHS tape collection?
Yes. Thank you for reminding me.
I have that one piece left. That was a beautiful story.
If I had my VHS collection today, I would have the best YouTube channel in the world.
Did we tell Kat that story?
I used to tape everything. Well, I just lost. I used to record a telethon every year, all his TV appearances. I mean, not just that. I mean, just stuff from MTV and just all kinds of cool stuff that aired, and I had it all labeled and lost it all in that storage debacle.
And you sent me Boing because I asked. I think you sent me a VHS tape.
Yeah, when we first met, you didn't have anything.
And I was going through some stuff, and I found it. I said, "Hey, I found this today," and you'd written a note on it, and you said, That's from my personal collection that no longer exists.
Oh, yeah. When Chad and I first met, one of the first things that I mailed him a VHS. I made a copy because I had two VCRs, so I could make copies of movies, and I mailed it to him. I said, "Here, I don't care." And he found one and sent me the JPEG of it. And I was like, "Yeah, that was my handwriting." So that's the only thing that exists from my VHS days. And what was the Jerry Lewis movie? Was it Boing Boing?
Boing boing, yeah.
Of course, yeah. Why is that your favorite Jerry Lewis movie? Are you a player?
No, no, it's because he just did such a great serious role in it, and lots of people never take him seriously. And I said, well, he played the straight man, and he did it very well. And I was like, if he would have done other roles, he would have been great at them. But the only side that they see is the comic side. They never see the straight man, and he was a great straight man in that film next to Tony Curtis. He blew it out of the water. But it's not as well known. And I think according to sources, he apparently, I think he had to work with Hal Wallace again, which he hated. Apparently, that's
Hal
true.
Wallace wrote about it in his book.
Yeah, and he apparently left. He left, I guess, and went to stay on his yacht. He actually left Paris or wherever they were filming and went on his yacht in California and just for about a week or so and delayed shooting on that film. Apparently.
Do you know about the conflicts between Tony Curtis and Jerry on that film? Like what happened?
Who would get top
they
billing?
wanted top billing. Yeah. So
Well, not just
they did a
that.
circle in the credits.
Not
Right.
just that, like they had a good friendship in the early 50s and
Right.
late 40s, and something happened there to break them apart. They weren't speaking to each other for many years. And so on that set of that movie, they were like two divas, and they caused Hal Wallace such issues. He was like, I can't deal with these sick people.
I read
know
Hal
what's-
Wallace's book, and he talked about making Boing Boing. For instance, what Tony Curtis would do whenever they would film a scene, as soon as the director went cut, Tony Curtis would take off his blazer and hold it up like that and would just wait for someone to come and take it. And if they didn't take it, he would just let it drop to the floor. So you're right. Diva.
And
But
like,
what's isn't it? It's interesting that right after that movie, he worked with Janet Leigh for Three on a Couch.
Right.
Yeah,
him
which
and
I don't think
Janet
they were
remained
married
friends.
at that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jerry and Janet remained friends,
Got it.
which always makes me think like maybe something happened between, from rumors that I've heard, that they were swapping partners in the 50s between. I don't know if that happened, but like I definitely think that Janet Leigh and Jerry Lewis got together at some point, and I think that might have been one of the main reasons why Janet and Tony stopped seeing them, because I don't buy Janet Leigh's explanation. She got very uncomfortable when asked in an interview about why her and Tony Curtis stopped seeing the Lewises, and she was like, "Oh, it's just because they got kind of." We had to give them big presents and this, but she got like really uncomfortable in her explanation, and it just doesn't make sense that you would just stop talking to people for many years.
Because Tony Curtis got jealous because he heard Jerry in the other room with Janet going, I like it.
Well, the way that Janet Leigh looks at Jerry Lewis, the way that she looks at him, and a lot of there's some like home movie type things, like
there was chemistry.
Very questionable, very interesting.
Jerry, back then, Jerry was a good-looking guy, back then.
Definitely. But going back to Boing Boing,
and he smelled really good with his cologne. With interviews, people always said that he smelled marvelous.
Definitely.
Wow.
Going back to Boing Boing really quickly, Jerry and Tony during the scene, so Jerry would try to throw Tony Curtis's, he would try to distract him. Like he would drop ashes on Tony's shoulder. He would unzip his pants, Tony's pants. So that was Like
Now,
Tony wrote about this in his book. Apparently, he was not happy.
well, that sounds like that they were getting along and being, because
Well, not according to Tony Curtis. He was trying to distract me in scenes, and he was being a jerk and
because
whatever.
when Ed McMahon used to tell the story about when he was before he became the full-time announcer of the telethon, he would do an hour one year, then he started doing 2 hours and 3 hours, and there was one time when Ed McMahon had a voiceover, and it was a very serious piece, about one of the victims, and while he's reading his cue card, he sees Jerry standing across from him with his pants unzipped and his shirt out. He would put his shirt through his zipper, just going like this, and you want to laugh, but you can't if you're reading about a kid, who just
Yeah.
died. So I don't know, but I thank you for allowing me to talk about the website where we met, and I hope that anyone from that group listen to it doesn't think that I'm a jerk, but that is the base of it, and I think it would be around today if the people who ran it then become gatekeepers.
Yes. Don't have people that work for Jerry Lewis or his family members on the site, because that's very strange.
And, and again, I can't remember her name, but he was one of Jerry's older kids on the telethon. Sweet, sweet woman. I can't remember her name, but she was always sitting up front. And this was the year after MDA let Jerry go, and she died.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, what you want to say is a lot of those people have is hope, and Jerry represented hope for them. And you I come from the school of thought where you can choose to die. You can will yourself to die if you give up. But before we could even speculate that, they were saying, well, she's passed on, but please hold your comments, because we don't want to offend. It's like, I started to go, what the hell is this discussion forum for? We can't say anything. And,
Yeah.
just because, Jerry getting the axe from the NDA was one of the most devastating things for a lot of people. I want to do an MDA thing one day, because there's a whole lot that I could talk about on that. But so especially about, I mean, they don't even do telethons anymore now, do they?
No.
I think there was that one primetime thing on Saturday night in 2012 or 13, and it was just a joke. It was like a 2-hour deal. You remember that?
Yeah, and then they did like
Yeah.
the bucket challenge thing that they were kind of a part of, but it was ALS, but it's also
Yeah,
part of
and
it.
you know what? And only 23% of the money went to ALS research, and that was probably the bullshit that Jerry was calling out, and that's probably why they canned him.
Yeah.
The executives at NBA don't need to be paying themselves $1 million salaries.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Ridiculous.
Well, and Jerry was there's interviews of him where he was always criticized. Well, you steal the money. He's like, you can go back and check the books. I've
Yeah.
never taken any of the money. I think he said that on Donahue and a few everywhere, anywhere he was approached on that.
Well, according to Jerry, he said 87 cents of every dollar donated went to patient care and research. The other
Well,
was
where the other
administrative stuff like postage and stuff like that, administrative costs, just basic overhead.
And well, I
Yeah.
mean, some of it had to go towards production also.
And that's reasonable.
Yeah.
That's reasonable.
Or
but everybody volunteered there.
yeah. I think sometimes they did also the traveling, because it was expensive to travel to different locations.
They started, especially with the live remotes and stuff like that, and and they came up with some good ideas, because Jerry reached a point where he couldn't do it all night anymore, so they had to come up with something to fill up those hours. And I remember on the '94 telethon, he went to the Improv and did a little set and introduced the other comics, and I think Jimmy Fallon was he was like a young comic. I think he was one of them. And see, that was something that I had in my priceless VHS collection that I would have on YouTube.
did Conan O'Brien interviewed him on his show, but he never was on the telethon, I think, because he started too late, I think, or maybe I'm wrong.
No. Conan O'Brien started in '93, late.
And
93.
he did a bit where he had the MDA money go backwards, right?
Yeah,
Anybody
that was
remember
in
that?
two. Yeah, that was when Jerry was starting to slim back. This is when Jerry was still on the prednisone. So this is like around 2004, 2005. So that was Conan had been on the air 12, 13 years by that point.
Yeah, and he had the bit where the money
was good.
went back, or it went backwards.
Yeah, people were
instead of
taking their
forwards.
contributions back. Yeah. Conan O'Brien was a guest on a telethon. He was performing like this polka song, and you can see the tote board going, down and
Going backwards.
And Jerry
Did
loved
you ever
it.
see that, Kat?
Huh.
Oh, it's
Oh
really
man,
really funny.
I think it's on YouTube
Yeah,
somewhere.
and Jerry loved it because when they went back to the past.
Yeah, I heard that. I
Jerry loved
heard
it.
that.
Jerry was cracking
Fabulous
up.
sense of humor.
Yeah.
I think
Well-
Jerry appreciated anything except for making fun of the "You'll Never Walk Alone" song.
Yeah.
I think because I did see something Jim Carrey did, which was definitely a take on Jerry and telethon. But he didn't touch the "You'll Never Walk Alone" song. He's saying something else, and I think Jerry had seen that and he liked it.
Oh,
So he definitely liked Jim Carrey for sure.
Well, and since we're going on anyway, is the story true? I think it was one of the earlier telethons in like '62, and a train wreck happened. It was when I first started scanning websites, and supposedly there's this story about actor Dennis James was co-hosting a local segment of a telethon in the early '60s, and they had some children there in leg braces, and I think one of them fell, and then another one fell, and they were singing "I Can Walk, I Can Talk," and Dennis James tried to save the bit, and it was just like and I always wondered if that was true. I'm not making this up. I've read this, and it was I think I want to say it was one of the '60s telethons, and it was a local segment. So Jerry wasn't there, but there was a big actor named Dennis James, who was, how Tony Orlando would do the New York spot. It was like that, So, but is there any truth to that?
I've never heard of that.
It's something that you don't want to laugh at.
I hope not, but it would probably happen if you like. Do you remember where you heard this? Bonnie, do you remember where you heard this?
This is when I was. It was at a website that I cannot. In fact, it was a website that played old clips from the telethon, audio clips. This is like in 1999, 2000. I'm talking about. So this is like old school internet stuff here. And in fact, it used to. There was a song that Jerry Lewis would sing on the telethon, and he would make fun of it because the phrasing of the lyrics, it made it seem like Jerry was saying something else. He was saying, "Please help them come." He was saying, "Come." And again, they played the audio. Don't make me do this to myself, y'all. I mean, this is what happened, okay? And you know what I'm talking about?
I'm gonna look it
Cat's
up.
gonna make a note and research it.
Yeah, it's gonna require some research. But it was a website that talked about embarrassing moments on the telethon.
I do remember that. I can't vouch for that. There was a website or something. I do remember reading like the 10 most controversial things. But I don't remember all of them. I remember like one, and I'm blanking on that. It was something to do about.
Well, look up the Dennis James MDA telethon thing.
I don't even know who Dennis James is.
He was like an actor, and he was big in the '50s and '60s, kind of like Gig Young, what's up? Oh, shoot, the one that played Superman's father in the 1980s.
George.
Glenn Ford. Yeah, as a kid.
Ford. Yeah,
he was one of
Glenn
those.
Ford.
Claude Aiken. He was that type of actor.
Mm-hmm.
But it was he that was hosting a local segment of the telethon where the train wreck happened.
Kat's
And,
already on it. She's
Yeah,
Googling it.
I see his name coming up here at first.
okay.
He was like, I think it says that they were.
Kat, this is
I'll
no
have
time
to
to be
do.
taking
I'll have to do more research on it. I won't waste.
Yes, because I don't want people
But
watching this thinking that I'm some kind of jerk for bringing this up.
it's a real thing.
Thank you. So, Kat, Thad, tell everybody y'all have my back, okay? And I don't go around making crap up. All right.
We don't tell lies.
You're a
here.
respectable journalist.
We are
Yes.
respectable journalists with sources, unlike authors.
Well, this one's just more of a fuzzy memory, but that I remember because I always wanted to find that footage to see if it were true.
Oh, definitely.
It probably is true. You never know. But I started watching the Jerry Lewis Telethon in 1977, and I never ever saw any really embarrassing moments in any of the local segments. At least nothing that I can recall. So that's why that anecdote jumps out at me. But the kids were singing "I Can Walk, I Can Talk," which is added to the right. So I just want, yeah, I know. And again, this is because we know this is a serious matter because we've all seen the footage of Jerry Lewis on tour in the '90s when the kid goes on stage. By the way, I think Jerry wishes he could have done that one differently because he was right to get uncomfortable and to stop the kid, but he should have said, "Do who's your little who's it's," not throw him off the stage and tell him to go to Star Search or whatever, because the kid didn't realize what he was doing. He didn't realize that he was, making fun of a very special song. He should have said, "Oh, all right, to what? Any song but that one." What do y'all think?
So,
Yeah, I remember that.
That was at a telephone.
I remember that incident.
I've seen the incident, but it didn't say where it was. It just said a show.
I don't know. That tour did very well. I think he went on tour in like '94.
Okay, so it was a show.
And because I remember,
I think he should just explained more. I think he kind of overreacted. I don't know. He probably regrets that later.
He probably would have said, "Well, I wish I could have." But this is in the '90s, and if it weren't for that person filming it from the audience, we would never know. But I wish I can't. I don't know why I didn't go get a ticket. Well, for one thing, I was broke as hell in those days, so that probably what it was. But I don't know. But because I remember he went on Sally Jesse Raphael talking about, "Hey, I'm going on tour," and Sally said, "Well, you're on stage all the time in Vegas," and he said, "Yeah, but Vegas is a different live audience. I want to see the real people because So anyone who saw that tour, they're lucky because I don't think he did any more after that other than Damn Yankees."
Yeah, I still think he was doing, I know he said he loved, I think it was partially him enjoying touring, of course, and nonstop working. He had to work, but also financially he had to work, I think, because, we still.
What do you think he had in the bank? What do you think he had in the bank when he left us?
Probably, from various sources that I've heard, it's obviously more than any of us.
Right.
He was rich enough, but he owed, I think, back taxes.
He still had to.
And
I
don't know if
really
I'm
can't
supposed
believe
to
that. I
say.
thought that Nutty Professor movie just had him set because, it made hundreds of millions of dollars with the sequel.
That's what I would think too, but we don't know what his profit from that.
He was executive producer. He was the executive producer, and they usually get the lion's share.
I would have to ask about that, actually.
Yes, Pat.
before we did the show in Tennessee, I was reading. I had gotten the King of Comedy book and his. I was reading it again, and I think it was in King of Comedy book that Sean Levy was talking about how he was very crazy with his money. I think Peter Bogdanovich, like in those days, he was unheard of at the time, and Jerry Lewis bought him like a new car and like would spend I didn't even know this, like I had skipped over that part, but apparently Peter Bogdanovich was like, yeah, he would give money away to buy me a car, and I was like, wow, like he was just spending money left and right. And of course that was in the 60s, when mid 60s, I think, when he was doing quite well, still at Paramount.
See, Jerry was compensating for the love he didn't get as a child, I mean, with the entourage and 100 pieces of luggage and making an entrance. And yeah, the Hollywood thing definitely went to his head. But, he had come back down to earth, by, the 70s, and he even said in an interview in 1979, he said, I'm probably going to have a very hard time paying my taxes this year because of how much I give to NBA, but that was before his comeback. Then Harley, of course, and we know he had to give his profits of Harley working to the creditors because his family movie house thing went up, tits up, But again,
and then alimony and stuff that he owed Patty. And then she did end up suing him for, she did end up suing him for the Nutty Professor proceeds too. So I'm not sure what exactly she got.
After Eddie Murphy? Oh, absolutely, yeah. Because that was community property when they were together.
Yeah, so I'm not sure how much she got from that, because I do know that it was like $480,000 that she was supposed to get per year. I don't even think he was able to pay that a lot of the time too.
That was his alimony, $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
But the kids were grown and the house was paid for. Good God.
Yeah, and that's another thing. Like, people always are acting like he left his children like they were like little children or something. They were fully grown men. Like, they were all fully grown men, and they're fully old men now. They don't need this money. Like, I do know, like, some of them aren't as well off. I mean, I don't think any of them are really.
Well, Gary tours all the time. When I was still on Facebook, I followed his band on Facebook, and they were always doing Facebook Live announcements. So, and it seemed like it sounds like he sells a lot of tickets when he plays small theaters.
And he can't help his mother. He's asking other people to help, like, fund his mother's care. Like, a lot of us don't have the career you have, and we still help put our mom.
And I remember Anthony being on that Inside a Dish or whatever, and he was talking about, my mother's going to be on the street. Well, what about you, brother?
Yeah.
Unless she has medical needs that require her to be in like an assisted living facility or something.
There is a video, I don't know if I ever shared it with you, of Anthony, who had clearly not been to the nursing home or care facility, whatever you want to call it, because he was kind of barred from it for reasons I won't say here. But
I'll tell you in private.
But he even, I think Scott or somebody who was doing a documentary on their father and had all these videos posted, said that Anthony also was barred, but this was like the first time of him seeing her in a long time.
And somebody filmed her.
Yes. And they went into the care facility. It looked like a decently, well-to-do facility, better than the ones that I've seen and been in. And, it was very sad to see Patty in the condition that she was. Like, she was clearly, very gone with the dementia. That,
okay.
Yeah.
So
it's very sad to see a once, live, vibrant woman and, very kind and woman
And
like her.
don't y'all find it interesting that she was a part of that A&E special from the 90s? I did not expect to see her on
Yeah.
that at all.
And then she was also in the Bonjour Monsieur Louis
Really?
documentary. Yeah,
Patty?
she appears in one. Yeah, Patty appears
She
in a part of that.
also, when I was restoring Joe's tape, it was very interesting to see that Geraldo show with Patty and
Geraldo.
Geraldo. And I think some of the sons. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I didn't even know about that.
I don't know about the sons, but
No, she was on one. She did one.
Yeah, she was on. Yeah.
That's on
Yeah,
YouTube.
she was on.
Did y'all see the Geraldo when when Jerry Lewis's ex-housekeeper was on?
I did not see that.
Yeah, and she kept it very positive. She talked about how eccentric, he was, and she said he had this thing. He could always tell when a light bulb was about to go out. He would say, "You need to change that," and he would always be right. And then she ended up marrying the guy who was stalking him. That was where the whole thing took a twist. Yeah.
Wow, where is this show? Did you tape this back in the day?
I'm sure it's. Oh, of course I did. And thank you for reminding me. No, but there are a lot of Geraldo episodes on YouTube now, and I think if you type Geraldo assistants to the stars or housekeepers to the stars, it was like people who worked for famous people. The guy who wrote the Diana Ross book, Call Her Miss Ross, I think he was on there. But yeah, Geraldo loved Jerry. In fact, he even had Jerry on once when Jerry was starting to do Damn Yankees. But I remember the episode where Patty Lewis was on. I remember the one where Jerry's old housekeeper was on, and she said he paid her very well and treated her well.
That's good.
Wasn't
I think his secretary was supposed to write a book at one point with somebody.
Ooh. Wow.
And I don't know. I think that might have been around the time that I do know, remember there was this thing about Jerry Lewis adopting a child and then it never happened. And they were wondering what happened to this child that he supposedly adopted. That was a girl.
Was that the Inquirer article, and if she was on the telethon with them or something like that?
Well, okay, so in 1953-ish, it was reported that Jerry was adopting a little girl named Sally Mae.
Oh.
And it was also in I think a book about Dean Martin also. And then people were wondering what happened to this Sally Mae. And so it was Star magazine or some tabloid. This though, it was it wasn't really tabloid stuff. It seemed like it was more to the truth because they did interviews, with the manager, Jerry Lewis's manager at the time, Dick Stabill's brother, Joey Stabill, and Jerry's secretary. I think it might have been Penny. I'm not sure. Could have been another one of them. But they said it was very strange how they were handling it and not wanting any information about this story, to be revealed. Patty said this never happened when they interviewed her. I'm not sure if they interviewed Jerry. They interviewed Joey Stabill, and he was like, it never happened. So, and it was only, I think, until they got to the secretary that she explained that there was a little girl that they had planned to adopt. She was tested for muscular dystrophy, or she was sick and they found out she had muscular dystrophy, and they had to return her or something to the adoption agency. The adoption agency wouldn't let them keep her because they were willing to keep her at the time. But they wouldn't let them have a sick child, I guess, because they hadn't fully adopted her. I guess they were just, in the process. But then it just, I don't know if I entirely believe that story is what happened. It's also strange that, Susan Lewis was born around that time.
Yeah, that popped in my head too. Yeah.
So, and then like she would have been a little girl, and maybe that she started showing the features of, Jerry Lewis that were so obvious because she looked exactly like him that they made me like, we're gonna. That's just a theory, but like, it is strange that they wouldn't let them keep a child for a few years of life to give them a quality life and just like up and took this kid away from a good loving home that she would have had for a few years.
And
That's
what
very
year was
strange.
this?
That was late 1953, 1954, around
Now,
that
but
time. And she
Jerry's
was like
initial
supposedly 3 or
wasn't the
4.
but isn't the very first thing Jerry ever did with MDA like 2 or 3 years before that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 1951 is around the time. So it's very odd that he was already with this organization, and then the kid just happens to get muscular dystrophy. It's strange.
Right.
And then also they re-asked Joey Stabile about it, and he's like, then maybe you solved the story then. Like he wouldn't really say. He was
He would
just like,
confirm
if
or
that's what you
deny.
want to believe, basically. So it was very strange. Like, why would they cover up all this? It's like nobody cares.
And who was Susan Lewis's mother?
Susan Lewis's mother was, hold on, Lynn Dixon. She married and became, I don't know how to pronounce this name, Uchitel, Uchitel, I don't know.
It's pronounced.
But Lynn Dixon is she also, her original name, I believe, was Esther, which was Patty's name too.
Right.
Original name. So they're both like they had stage names. So Lynn Dixon wasn't really quite her name, but it was like Esther or something. And she was a blonde. She resembled Lana Turner, who Jerry Lewis had a crush on for many years, and he was apparently upset later on that he never had an affair with her. As he said, he got close to her.
I guess Stella Stevens was his consolation prize.
I guess, or this Lynn Dixon. Apparently, he proposed marriage to her while married to Patty and also having affairs with other women. It's funny. Okay, so for instance, so Dean Martin met Jean, Jean Biegers, who would later become his wife, but he was having an affair with her on his wife and having an affair with June Allison, the actress, one of the main actresses at MGM, and then Jerry hooked up with her friend Gloria DeHaven and was also seeing Lynn Dixon at the same time and cheating on his wife. So they had like 3 women at least going on, 3 relationships. So
Patty put up with a lot, it looks like.
Sounds like Boeing.
Exactly. It does.
Very, very much like that.
Running in the bathroom, running out, I stepped on
you can't go in all my little personal things in there, and I don't want them to be exposed.
Yes, that's it. My things, my toenail clippers, and all my personal things. I don't want her to see that. What was that scream I heard?
Don't you understand?
My shoe trees are going to be exposed.
What was that scream I heard? I stepped on Bertha's toe.
I just had to get that Boeing.
Yeah, I was trying to remember.
In there.
I did find out.
Farrah Jacques, Dormayview.
I did, I don't think I ever told you this. I did find out, like, around a year ago that Patty Lewis was previously married. So that, like, he was a Catholic, but, like, I don't know if she got the marriage annulled. We couldn't find, me and my friend couldn't find the information for that, but we did find, stuff about them. She was married to Jimmy DePalma, band, I forget what he did, but like he was like in the band.
Yeah.
he played I forget what instrument he played, but he was in the band with Dick Stabile. So I think Dick Stabile, knew things later on and probably confided all that in Dean Martin, because like Dean Martin years later told Jerry, I could say stuff about Patty, but I'm not going to. You know
what? I think sometimes the best way to connect dots and put pieces together is to find in-depth interviews with people like the Dick Stabiles and whoever, because they have a perspective. There's a YouTube channel that I just love. It's gone under a couple of name changes. I think one time it's called Emmy TV Legends, and they just have like all these great. It's where Jerry did the interview on his boat. And it's that channel, and it's just all these great interviews with writers and producers and actors and people mainly in television, and it's just fascinating. But I think we need to see YouTube channel.
I love the one with Milton Berle. He tells this hilarious story about Dean Martin years later. Like, apparently, Jean Martin found lipstick on Dean's underwear. And she was very upset about the whole thing. And then Dean, told her, basically, he's like, a little head isn't cheating. So that, and she was very, very upset. And then, he tells this like hilarious joke after about this. I'm not going to say.
I think women
that's
did
like the mindset that like Dean Martin had, and like Jerry kind of adopted that,
I always feel like the whole lipstick on the collar thing, the lipstick on the collar in this situation you just talked, I think those women were doing that on purpose because they knew it would get them in trouble, little evidence so they can get their calls on them. But, well, y'all, I can do this all night, but I got other stuff to tend to, but I want us to do this again. I want us to do this many times. And we probably, I think, entertained a lot of people, probably ticked off some people. And but I don't think
the whole Lewis family is lawsuit coming up.
You know what? I don't know what Danny and Sam have done to rectify the whole estate thing. I don't know how much money they got. I know that they got some money, and I just feel if all they're doing is just spending the money and not helping out the other children, that is very disappointing to me, because I'm telling you, those kids had it way worse than Danny ever did. Those kids, they had a rough childhood, even during the successful years. Jerry Lewis was a very interesting father to have.
Well, I would say that like he did give them jobs. He helped even Gary Lewis, like he was not the lead singer. They didn't have a lead singer. And they thought that Gary, because of his name, would sell more records or have more sales because his father was a household name.
Yeah.
And so, he did sort of have a career because of that. And then like all of his other sons, he did help get jobs in the industry.
Absolutely.
To some degree. And then they did telephone work, and, he helped them get started. So I think he gave them money. Certainly,
when they got older, it seemed that things were mended for a good while. And then the last few years, it just seemed like everything came apart. But I'm talking about their childhood.
Yeah.
They had to keep up appearances, just like in that A&E thing, how they had to, do a whole movie of Christmas with the Lewises. And according to Anthony, they had to do retakes of them opening their own gifts.
I guess that's what they get for having a filmmaker father. I don't know, like who had, those tendencies of having to get things right. Like I know he had some.
Well, I'm more concerned. Well, I guess the point I was making is like just keeping up the appearances that Jerry wanted. They had to like be mindful to not do the wrong thing. That's what I have a feeling of.
Yeah, for sure. And
And they
then
probably had to keep a lot of secrets too.
most of them grew up during the time where Jerry was very, he wasn't himself, but he had the drug issues and the back pain and etc., all these other issues. And Jerry was still going through back pain even before that fall in 1965. Like he had fallen, it was like 1951 in Minneapolis during a show with Dean Martin. He fell off the stage or he did something. There's different conflicting reports on like what exactly happened, but he was in the hospital. And I know he did start taking Percodan even in the 50s.
Really?
But are we all agree that he actually hurt his back on the Andy Williams show and not at the Sands that he claimed for so many? He kept switching the story, but I think it's because of probably his memory.
Yeah.
According to his '82 autobiography, if what he described in that book actually happened, he would have died.
He said he flipped off the piano.
Or it was a microphone. He like landed on the microphone.
That footage of actually from the Andy Williams show where he slipped on the floor.
Yeah, he hit it hard. Yeah.
And then at the end he says the floor was wet. And Andy says, "You all right?" And he says, "Yeah." And he slicks his hair back and he looks kind of just bewildered.
Really?
In that footage.
That part I didn't notice. Okay, I'll look at it again. But I do remember that footage because he's wearing a really badass tuxedo. He looked good, and they were all dancing like in a circle, and he slipped, and you almost can't even see him fall.
Almost no. And he gets up and he finishes the whole number, and then after that he just says the floor was wet, and then he says, "Yeah, I'm all right," and he just looks like just everything's taken out of him. I think I read that right after that he collapsed and they took him in an ambulance.
He did that exact same number like 2 years later on his own TV show. I'm like, did you not learn? Like,
well, he did that he did that at the Colgate Comedy Hour with Dean, but it was a variation of it.
Yeah, someone, this British comedy duo did that exact same. Ant and Dec are their names, and they did it with my favorite singer Robbie Williams. And I was like, this looks very familiar. This is the exact thing that Jerry Lewis and even Dean Martin used to do on their shows. And now this comedy duo is bringing it to modern audiences, which was nice to see.
I've met 3 people who have all met Jerry, and unfortunately, none of them had a positive thing to say. But 2 of them were during the Percodan era.
Yeah.
And Jerry was notorious for his lack of patience, but one was he was at an airport and he was being very abusive to the ticket counter lady and making fun of her accent, because he was in Nashville at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember the other time, but then I used to work for this one company where my boss was a woman who used to work for Service Merchandise and at the head office in Nashville. And this is in 1990, and they were giving Jerry the Harry Zimmerman Award. And so they put up his accommodations in the hotel and all that. And she said, "You couldn't do anything right." She said he complained about everything. She said you could do nothing right. And I'm like, geez, I'm sorry, And I was like, here we go again. Another person who met Jerry, he was an asshole,
I mean, but also you have to take, I guess, in certain situations, you have to see, like, maybe she wasn't doing stuff right. I don't know. Like, I mean, because each person has a version of their own truth, I would say.
Well, when Jerry had the pulmonary fibrosis, and I can't remember which son it was, but I don't know if I saw an interview or read an interview, but they were saying, "How's your dad doing, with the pulmonary fibrosis?" He says, "Well, I can tell my father is definitely feeling better because he's complaining again. That lets me know he's doing all right." So some tells me Jerry just complains.
Oh yeah, I know he was a perfectionist and he did complain and whatever. But like I think it just I always take some of the stories with a grain of salt because, you know, you don't know. Like each person has a version of their own truth. As in the movie Rashomon, I don't know if you've ever seen it, where like it tells the story of like this outlaw who like captured these people, and like each person tells a story, and it's like totally, completely different from each other's stories.
Well,
So
did you, on Daily Motion, which is kind of like a YouTube kind of channel, there's some guy who he gave his brush with fame story, and his was he worked at some deli, and Jerry Lewis came in. This was around the damn Yankees period,
mhm.
and he didn't know how to make, and I think it was an egg cream, and Jerry wanted to get an egg cream, and he talked about how his daughter was a little girl at the time, and she had like one of those like portable VCRs playing like movies, top of the line. And so anyway, this guy who worked at the deli, he couldn't make the egg cream, and Jerry just chewed him out, and he says, "You know what? I'm gonna get you fired," and he got the guy fired. So because he couldn't make an egg cream, I don't know. It's
I
on
think
Daily.
I think he did like people that like he couldn't want. Like if someone told him
I don't like
that,
incompetent.
maybe
He
yeah.
had a thing about, I don't like the incompetent. The incompetent means that you're taking away a job from someone who is competent. That
I
was
think
Jerry.
if somebody had told him back and like told him he was out of line, I think he might have respected that. Like otherwise, he was gonna walk all over you in his
Yeah,
bad.
Lou Brown used to always call out Jerry, and he says, "Look, you got the whole world telling you how wonderful you are. You need to keep me around so I can tell you when you're being a schmuck."
Yeah, and then there's plenty of good stories where Jerry like was very gracious to people, and maybe it's just the day.
Well, he sent me
Yeah,
my autograph,
yeah.
so I'm I don't know. I need to get on eBay because it could be on eBay right now, and it's got my name, my legal name, and
Hmm.
it's a version of Audi, and so that's that. All right, y'all. So let's make a date to do this again, and let's see, if we get any interesting comments, to answer some of the questions that we've posed.
Hmm.
Are you still
Yeah,
awake, man?
I'm still here. Yep.
I do
Sorry,
know that like the reason why I'm still here as a Jerry Lewis fan is because the good outweighed the bad for me.
oh
Any
yeah,
negative stories, like he had like 3 other great stories where he did amazing things for people, and some people didn't appreciate that and took advantage of him. So like
yeah.
probably
Well,
just
next
got
time we get
bitter and
together, I want to talk about. I definitely want to talk about the just MDA in general, and I want to talk about that 5-year gap when he and Sammy Davis Jr. weren't getting along, because I'm very fascinated to know the details about that. Because
I've never heard that.
from 1973 to 1978, he and Sammy Davis Jr. did not speak.
We will definitely.
So
We'll
write that
talk
down.
about it. We'll talk about it.
All right. I
All
love
right.
y'all.
Next
This was so awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you.